Namaste, welcome everyone. So happy to be here with you all. My name is Ashley Turner. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher. I've been teaching for 20 years. I'm a licensed psychotherapist in clinical practice for over a decade. And today I have a very special guest. We are diving into what it's like to be in the Yoga Psyche Soul live training. The doors to our live training are opening up soon, and I wanted to give you guys some interviews with people who've gone through the program, who've been through all 6 modules, and different archetypes, different kinds of people. So today, in just a second, I'm going to bring on my very dear friend, AdaPia. And she is unique because she is not a yoga teacher. She is not a therapist. She works in business. She's an incredible, badass boss babe. And she's a consultant. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about her work. But she's transitioned into coaching and consulting, and she went through the whole Yoga Psyche Soul training, and I want you to hear from her. For those of you, maybe you've been through IIN, or your coaches, or your consultants, maybe you don't ever want to teach yoga. I don't know that AdaPia ever wants to teach yoga, but this is going to explain to you what the benefits are of going through Yoga Psyche Soul, what are the actual skills that you're going to build, the experiences that you have, and how that can translate into increasing your bottom line and building not just your business, but improving relationships in your life and your deep personal development. So without further ado, I'm going to have AdaPia jump on with us. And she lives right here, so we're both here in rainy Los Angeles. Hi, AdaPia. Yay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure, thank you.
So grateful. So AdaPia and I have a long history. We've been on many retreats together, and she's been through the entire Yoga Psyche Soul live training, the 6 modules. And tell us just a little bit about yourself, your work in the world, and what you're doing now.
Sure. Yeah. So I had wanted to do Yoga Psyche Soul from the moment you announced it. But back in those days, I was still working as a corporate executive, and so I could not ever take 6 weeks off to do personal training. And then, luckily, life took me to a place where I went into doing my own work as a coach and a consultant. And so that's part of what I do today. I actually still work in, I guess, quasi-corporate. I work in private equity real estate. So I've actually been able to design a life where I can still, use my business skills and do this heartfelt work, especially working with women. And I really wanted to do Yoga Psyche Soul because I so understand the value that yoga brought to my life in reshaping it. I completely built a whole new life, and yoga was a cornerstone of that. And I was the typical A-type person that went into a yoga class and it was like, okay, I have 90 minutes, 900 calories I have to burn, let's go. I wouldn't do an I was just that was me. But then over time, as you know, yoga does something to you, and I'm like, what's going on with me? And it allowed me to go deeper and deeper. So to me, Yoga Psyche Soul was I need to understand that mechanism in myself because people are going through it all the time. And so I was able to make that commitment to myself last year to do the training, which was fabulous. And it served me in so many ways. I mentor MBA students at USC Marshall, and everything that we were doing there was I would transmute it and translate it into these students that are about to go into brand new, big careers, and self-awareness is the cornerstone of leadership. And I was
Oh, are we back?
Yeah, I think we're back. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Oh, so wild. Okay. I'm going to, okay, let's try this again. So you're saying self-awareness is the cornerstone of leadership. I was just writing that down because that's such a tweetable. I love that.
Yes. Yeah, it's being recognized more and more actually. So in business circles, if you're going to lead people, you should lead yourself first. And to lead yourself, you have to know yourself. And to know yourself, as far as my personal experience with this, is you have to go into the shadow and you have to go into the psyche 100%. And so what tools exist beyond let's say simply therapy, because it's so much more. And like what we were learning was like the science and the philosophy of yoga, not so much asana, which is great. I love it. I have a daily practice, but I'm not teaching asana to my MBA students or to like any of my clients. I'm teaching them how to get centered and how to, I guess, tether themselves to center, as opposed to like flying off in emotional reactions, especially like, yeah, there were so, I mean, there's so much. Plus like just being there live was what to me was really phenomenal. Like just being able to relate to others in group showed me in those moments where I might have walked in thinking like, oh, I don't really know if I can do this. Who am I to do anything? But I have wisdom to share, and that came clear through like this container that we talk about that you hold so strongly, like Kula. And I have this amazing community of women now that supported me for 6 weeks. It was really like super special.
Mm. Okay, you're back.
I don't know what's going on. It was fine. I have everything closed.
No, it's fine. I think we're good now. I want to talk about that. So let's dive into what were some of the specific. I love your perspective because you're not in the world necessarily in the wellness world and business on, as you said, MBA students, executive coaching. What are some of the skills that you got from Yoga Psyche Soul? Like what are some tangible tools that you've been able to translate to your clients?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one was really the piece around facilitation and how to facilitate a group, which is different than, let's say, speaking, because I also do public speaking, and that's really different. But like facilitating a small group where you're inviting this level of sharing amongst them, it's like a whole other energy field that a facilitator needs to know how to contain, especially because it's really purposeful. It's like life purpose type of work with the MBAs. It's a specific program that they sign up for. So that was fantastic. And I like taught them what I was taught. So I was like, okay, we're going to create resonance. Here's what resonance is. And what was really surprising to me was they were so interested in understanding that skill for themselves going into management, which I wasn't expecting, because they were like, well, how do you do that? Because I want to be a good leader. So that was a really important skill for me that I learned. I think like other like really tangibles were, to me, the tangibility of putting some science around self-awareness work. As people will call it squishy, they'll call it woo, they'll really disintegrate how important it is. And so being able to language that in a way that is like, well, here's also some science behind mindfulness and meditation. That's really important. Like having the backup information and doing some practices with, like I don't teach a meditation class or anything, but like doing practice with the people in the group gave me that little bit of confidence that, with my students, we do like, 5 to 10 seconds or breaths of centering in the beginning. And I would have never, ever done that before, ever.
Yeah.
But they appreciate it.
Yeah, it's giving you, and I know you really lit up when we did have the meditation and mindfulness module on some of the neuroscience that is. I think most corporations are pretty aware that mindfulness, mindset strategies, meditation, it's going to lead to, better leadership within their programs, better productivity within their companies, and increase their bottom line ultimately. And so you as a coach or a consultant, executive coach, being able to go in and offer, and as you said, have the skill set that you may not lead like an online how to meditate program, but to be able to go into a boardroom or a conference room or work with MBA students and teach them simple mindfulness practices to shift their perspective, to shift their state of being. It's a huge, it adds so much value to what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, and have the resources to give instead of just saying it, but backing it up.
Yeah, and also being able to, another thing you mentioned was the breath work, very simple skill set of leading a simple breath practice or getting them into their bodies. Embodiment is a huge attribute of leadership. Being able to really connect to this huge source of intuition, of information, how we read the room with our bodies, being able to teach these skill sets and just tune executives or your other clients into how their body is the greatest antenna that they have, the greatest resource that they have, and making those mind-body connections in a really evidence-based, scientifically grounded way.
Yeah, no, I loved that module. And also like the module I was, let's say, least interested in, was the conscious relationships module, because I don't know, whatever my resistance to that is, but it actually turned out to be such a great one for me, because I was like, I'm married and everything, I've got that going on, that's fine. But what it really taught me, like beneath that piece of it, because we go instantly to like the romance side of it, but it was really about like, how do I relate to anyone and everyone and to myself, which is super important in everything. And like being able to practice those skills in a group setting with peers, with my peers, because I'm coaching or working with like other adults. So, and I'm not trying to be up here over them, they're like here. And so being able to relate to them that way was like this other skill set that, it really gave me a lot. It really gave me a lot in here that I probably didn't think I needed or knew that I needed. So it was like a very pleasant surprise. So that was also really fun to learn. It's like, oh, this module, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely, the conscious relationships and sacred sexuality module 5, I think a lot of people have that perspective that it's geared towards romantic relationships, and we certainly get into all of that. But the truth is, these are just basic interpersonal skills. And, every executive, and I've worked with many clients who run Fortune 500 companies, who are CEOs of billion-dollar businesses, and I've asked them all the same thing, which is, what's your number one challenge running a company? And they all say the same thing: it's people. The biggest challenge that anyone has in their job is how to deal with other people. So that module 5 is really built to bring in the interpersonal psychology and the yoga of relationships, so you have a working knowledge and you leave the training, as you said, with a working knowledge of how to teach people projection, how to help them break down the patterns of what they're doing: projection, transference, counter-transference, owning our own shadow stuff. So we recognize when we're getting triggered, we're fragmented, it's coming up, what's happening, how can we quickly unpack that and resolve it so that it's not impacting the results in our business or our lives. So as a coach or consultant, to be able to have that languaging and some exercises that you can do with people, just simple practices to alert them and help them then become the leaders that they want to be and lead their team. Then they can bring those skills to their teams. Yeah. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I want to go back, because this statement that you said is so important, which I hadn't really thought of it like this, but you said, self-awareness is the cornerstone of leadership. And when we're talking about being a coach, whether someone like you that's going into companies and consulting executives, or I know a lot of you went to IIN and you're coaching clients now on the side, and you're kind of scrambling to figure out, well, I got this coaching certification, but I don't feel like I really understand how to get into unpack the architecture, the basic architecture of the psyche, and what we're working with in the conscious and unconscious mind, so that you have a working knowledge of shadow work. And after going through the training, you apply those skills and tools to yourself, you're much more comfortable then applying them and walking other people through those. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the shadow work and what that experience was for you in the live training?
Sure, yeah. I mean, because we've known each other for so long, like I've been on like a shadow work journey for the past few years. And I think being in the live trainings really like held me, and it was like a catalyst and a container at the same time. So it was like a contained, you know, like not a nuclear explosion, I didn't blow up, but it was like that kind of an energy that was held and contained, which is not easy. It's not easy to do. Most people don't want to do their shadow work. Let's face it, it's really hard. Nobody likes it. But being in a container where I felt safe and held amongst also other women where, you know, maybe somebody would say something and it would be almost like a permissive statement for somebody else to say, you know, me too, and not like the Me Too movement, Me Too, but a lot of that as well. But just saying like, yeah, like I go through the same thing, and having that feedback loop and feeling really safe to do it was a really big part of a lot of things that in this journey of personal evolution, inner awareness, and shadow work really like elevated it to a level where I felt that I crossed a threshold of my ability to do that work. Because I do a lot of it on my own, but it's so different to have it in the space and to get feedback. And, you know, I went through a lot of things in those 6 weeks where I was able to be held safely. And I'm tendentially a person that doesn't ask for help. So that was also a big like learning for me, and like, oh, I'm held, I can ask for help. And that kula, that community that comes out of it makes this work better. And, you know, it goes back to that whole self-awareness thing. Like if you don't know yourself, like your inner workings and the workings of the psyche, like it's not that you can't help other people, but it's much more impactful when you do have that understanding within yourself, because you speak from the heart. So instead of like rattling off a bunch of statistics, I can say, this has been my experience, and I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what I learned from mine. You know, like they say, a lesson is caught by the soul, not taught. So I can only talk about myself. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to speak from my heart. And that was a piece of the shadow work that really kind of bubbled up to the surface for me, being at the live training.
Mm-hmm. And you make such a good point. I love that. I've never heard that. But what did you say?
Lessons.
Wisdom or lessons?
Yeah, lessons can't be taught. They're only caught by the soul.
They're caught by the soul. Mm-hmm. So in other words, what you're saying is it's an embodied experience. It's when we've lived through it. And I always say, you know, we learn by living. When we live through it, you're teaching by transmission. Because when you go into a room now with MBA students, you're telling them what it's like to be a woman who's married and in a career and, you know, running a business and a household. And you have personal stories, or what it was like to leave a marriage and first marriage and then cross that threshold of initiation, and what that means for you as a person and your empowerment, and how that's actually shaped your worldview and your business mindset. You're teaching by transmission. You're leading by example. And those are really the only leaders that we want to follow. And so going through, and that's why the live training, it is what sets apart the live training from the online, is that we are going through these experiences together and exercises together in the room. Mm-hmm. And I'm right there with you, getting in the weeds with you, definitely. And getting to the other side. And when we go through that and we get to the other side of whatever our story is, whatever our, you know, trauma might be, patterns might be, it's not that scary. You know, first of all, one of the biggest aims of Yoga Psyche Soul is to shatter shame. There's no shame in the game. There's no shame in any, whatever your story is that you're dealing with, there's no shame. And we come here to alchemize it. We come here to mine the gemstones that your life experience has offered you, and then turn those, as we say, the wounds into wisdom, and ultimately your wisdom into wealth, that this is your dharma, that your karma is your dharma. What you've gone through in your life is exactly the practical magic that you have now to offer the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the aims of this training. And I love that you realize that you going in and speaking and giving examples from your own life, and not just rattling off, you know, theoretics or emotional intelligence, you know, theory or psychology, but you're actually tying it back to your own personal story, is what transforms people, and is what, you know, calls you as a leader to draw those people.
No, it's frozen. Oh.
Goodness. Okay. Well, at least you got a flattering picture. When the picture froze, you got a flattering one on my end. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so like what can you say about the live experience that was a surprise for you? Maybe something didn't a fair exercise or something that was unique.
I loved the Sweat Lodge. I really did. It was so special up there. It was such a special just event for us to do together. And I like that you would take us outside to do different things. And we went into the forest and we did that one. And so I think some of that too, it's a great way to break up such heavy material that we're going through also. So it was like a really great way to like break up the week, because we were in that, the beautiful like crystal gallery. But energetically you want to get out sometimes. And that was super special. And I think it was just such an amazing bonding exercise for everyone. I mean, you don't really bond much more than that. So I wasn't expecting it. I was newer to Sweat Lodge. I had done them earlier in the year. I wasn't expecting it, and so I really loved that. And so did a lot of others I know that had never been to one. They didn't even know what to expect. And so I thought that was really great. Like also just like breaking it up, because we have like the beautiful sadhana in the morning and then practice. And then, we spend the afternoon doing this work and this learning, but being able to break it up and do something like Sweat Lodge, was a surprise, which I just loved it so much. And it was really powerful. Yeah.
Yay. And then what about an exercise or some kind of thing that we did in, group process or in some of the afternoon work, anything that jumps out at you or anything that you've taken into your trainings?
Not that I've taken into my trainings, but when we were doing the sound module, when we had to sing, which for me was terrified of singing in front of anybody. But that one shifted me a lot. Yeah, that really was like, you're going to face your fear and you're going to do it anyway. And that was scarier than anything else I've done, I think. But that was really powerful. And it just showed me also that even there, I was also really held and supported. And what came up for me as well. So I found that one was really powerful. Like having also like the guests that you would bring in with their specific teachings. That was the hardest module for me, which was unexpected. Like I didn't recognize my resistance until it was like, it was like right there and like right here. So that one was a real, I think what's interesting for me is, to sum it up, is that a lot of things that I wasn't expecting or even planning or preparing for, of course, were such massive learning lessons. It's kind of like you don't know what's going to come up or where your resistance points are or where you can melt a little more or where you can release that you didn't even know was there. And to do that in such a space, which you hold, like truly, it's so hard to hold space for that, and the way that you can reflect it back without trying to come across as like a guru. It's just like you reflect in a way where there isn't this hierarchy that gets built, but there's always a respective lineage, which is incredibly important. So a lot of those teachings also that come through in the room, there's like this mix of information and you and the group and the energy. And I'm so glad I did it. It keeps unfolding for me. And like lots of new situations that come up where I'm drawing on what I learned there, and also drawing from the Kula itself, especially in tough times.
Mm-hmm. And so tell us, thank you so much for that. And I love, you know, my aim is definitely to have a very multidimensional training where, yes, you're getting a 400, actually it's more like a 600 page module, you know, manual. There's about 180 to 100 pages for each module in the manual. Mm-hmm. And yes, you're getting all of that theory and articles and resources for those of you that want to keep diving deeper, and tons of visual images, and we do PowerPoint presentations, but then it is also that embodiment. We're going out into earth. You know, I'm teaching you guys how to do different kinds of rituals so that you can weave that into your teaching according to your authentic, you know, gifts and interests, and who, you know, where you find yourself leading and teaching.
Nope.
Crazy. So anyway, so that again, you're leading by transmission. You're leading by example. Tell everyone what you're doing now, and what's your website? Where can I send everyone so we can get that up there?
Yeah, well, my website's my name, AdaPia.com, and I also have a blog, which you can click on blog, but it'll take you to realwealthrealhealth.com. So I'm doing, you know, I'm doing like coaching. I'm doing a mix of things. You know, I found this like baseline. I have my real estate investing work, which I love. And then I'll work really selectively with like coaching executives and speaking when I can. Something that's been a complete surprise for me, which is becoming much more important every day, is these women's circles that I started in the summer. And I felt like I could do them because we did the first module in May and I did my first circle in July. And I felt really empowered to be able to hold that kind of space. And they've kind of taken on this life of their own, where they're very ritualistic. They have a lot of the urban priestess training for the past 3 years. But it's like this mix of things, and I'm like able to like create the space that has been like so incredible for the women, and it's been like creating my own version of Kula, and total surprise, like completely unexpected, was not even on my radar at all. But then I felt empowered from the training to try it happen. So that's been incredible. So I'm doing that, and there's a page called Circles as well on when you get to the Real Wealth, Real Health. And so that, that is kind of what I'm up to now. Like, I'm just like, and I'm finishing my book. So I'm trying to bring forward this creative
small little thing.
I have to get it done. It's like finishing this from 2018. So it's like, it's like all these things, because it's like, it's super important too, if you're coaching, I think that, you can approach people with like a sense of wholeness. Like, I'm not just this, because I used to be like, I'm just a business person. And I was like 90% this, and then the rest of my life was 10%. Now it's like this complete mix, and I'm not any one thing. I honor every part of myself. And I believe that's a foundation for everyone to really bring the best of what they are and who they want to be in everything they do. So if I can lead by example and honor myself and my process, and especially the creativity, because we're also creative and we're all like, we want it to come out. That's really important. And I felt very empowered to be embodied in my creativity through the program, which again, unexpected, but that's been like a big takeaway for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So anything else that you want to share with people that are, potentially interested in live training? Anything else you'd say to someone that might be on the fence?
If you're on the fence and you're like, oh, I don't know, because it kind of like tugs at your heart, being live will 100% be worth it. Like, just like the group, the people that are going to be there, it's like, it's magic. It's this kind of magic, and we need it. And this is not just for women, right? It's like, we want to be coming together more and more, because we feel actually more and more separated online, and like, like the trolling and hiding behind the computers, and we're all hurting. But when we come together in person, there's just something that gets created that's beyond. You know, it's like 1 + 1 = 100. Like it's something different. And so if you're on the fence because you don't know, I would say like it's totally worth doing. I would do it again. if my year, I would, just because I want the groove, you know.
Yeah.
Stick to my
well, you can come back and apprentice anytime. I would love to have you.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful. And for those of you that are interested, you can actually book a call with me right now. I am, we're getting ready to open the registration in the doors for the live training, but for those of you that are seriously interested and definitely looking at doing this live, you're welcome to book a call with me, and we can do a 20-minute call, and I'm happy to jump on the phone and just answer any of your questions. And this is the link, and we'll put it in the comments below. YPS, Yoga Psyche Soul Live, waitlist, it's case sensitive. And thank you so much, AdaPia. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, yay. Well, you are such a powerhouse. You are such a bright light. I'm so grateful to know you, and I'm going to see you soon in person.
Yes, for sure. Okay, thank you.
So go check out AdaPia's site. The link is also in the comments, and look at all of her great work. And blessings to all of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Please keep putting in the comments, even if you are watching this later. Put any questions you have in the comments. We'll be checking back and answering them all. Take care.
Bye.